Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Church Hurt, Pastors and Preachers Kids. My name is Emmanuel Cueta Jr., and I'm so excited today for a wonderful conversation. I know it's going to be something that is important and necessary for us to discuss as Christians. I pray that you are inspired by the conversation, by just us being so honest and open about what transpires in Christianity, because we know a lot of things go on in Christianity that sometimes is hid under the rug, but we got to be honest and open about it to make sure that people know that there's a difference between religion and relationship. There's a difference between religion and Jesus Christ, and we want to know that, and want people to know that a lot of these things that you see, a lot of the drama and the confusion you see in Christianity is not God breathed, but is more man breathed. So the guest I have coming on today, he is somebody that is close to my heart, my big brother. He's to me he's a gospel. He's just a gospel wizard. He is somebody that I looked up to almost my entire life. You know, he founded Second Chance, one of the most powerful gospel groups of the past 20 years. He's done so much. So I can't wait to have him on. So I'm dead. Can you bring him on? E,
Hey,
you ready?
yes, sir. What's
So
going on?
we're here now, and obviously we have you here because me personally, I know you, and I feel as though you've gone through a lot. You've gone through a lot, but the fact that you're still here, you're still in ministry, it says a lot to me. But we need to find out, everything you went through. The people need to know what you went through, your story, your struggle, everything you went through in ministry as a preacher's kid. You know, not only as a preacher's kid, but as a Christian. So I can't wait to have this conversation with you. Any thoughts before we get into your story?
Certainly. Well, Manny and the crew out there at Sierra TV, thanks for getting me on here. I think it's a critical matter that we need to discuss because these things are happening in different churches, different communities. Instead of building communities, it's breaking people apart, it's separating families, and folks are undergoing depression and all of those different things. So this is a really deep topic that I think we should horn in on. So I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to what the show has today.
Thank you. We appreciate that, man. I appreciate you coming on because a lot of people have asked you, to do something like this, but you know, you didn't do it, but you waited for me, your little brother to be open about your struggle and your story, and I really appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. I also want to thank Tracy Amati and Stacy Barnes for allowing me to even host, by myself and be able to trust me. I want to thank Hamjad, HJB Production. Am I saying it right? Yeah, I want to thank them too. So, so Emmanuel, let's get into your story, right? Um, let's go all the way back to um, Liberia, West Africa, right? Let's go back to little ERW, the little child that was singing and ministering at such a young age, being on fire for the things of God. This is not just now. This has been since you were the tiny you know little tiny boy.
You
So I
don't
want
know
to
that.
know, tell me your story. Tell me, about your background, your upbringing, and what led to the moment that really changed your whole perception on church and Christianity, and especially religion. So,
Mm.
floor is yours.
All right. Again, you guys, thanks so much for having me on. I'll just go straight to the chase. I'm a straightforward guy.
So, I
Common
know.
sense, straightforward. Um, my exposure to gospel music, I was grandfathered into it. My dad was a pastor, and at age 12, I found myself in the midst of gospel music. Um, and at age 15, I found myself as a full-fledged music minister in my dad's church, and everything else was history from there.
Wow, wow, wow. So this has been a long time. So tell me your experiences. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, clearly.
Okay. So tell me your experiences growing up as a child in the church and being a musician and just serving in your father's church.
Well, serving in dad's church was absolutely fun. The innocent child coming in, gravitating to gospel music and all of its elements. It was really, really uplifting for me throughout. I enjoyed it. Um, it was certain time where the entire year I wouldn't miss a day of church because I was just so immersed into gospel music and all of its different genres. Um, until it came to a place where it was around 1920 when when certain things started transpiring and my eyes began to open to the church culture as it presented itself then. So at that age, um, I realized that dad was immersed into the church and he literally quit his job with the government at the time, and he started working in ministry. He left the Assembly of God Church, and then he became partners with the Church of the Believers, as it was called, um, with his buddy, uh, Reverend Roosevelt Liberty. He's currently in Liberia, running the same ministry. So when it came to a place where um, I was very conscious now, I was in college and stuff like that, first semester in college. Now things became more glaring to me now. So I began to see church politics as it presented itself. So just fast forward, dad fell ill. He fell ill. Um, and his illness was unexplained because this trend of events happened when one of the deacons in the church did something in the church. And there was a board meeting. Dad was the resident pastor. The board decided that this deacon did something hideous, and the deacon um, needed to step down. So now dad is a messenger. All right. Uh, it's the resident pastor. It's his job to go and just tell this guy, listen, you committed these things. It's against the church's doctrine. You're going to have to step down. The deacon took it personal and went into the dark world. Went into the dark world. And dad is preaching one time. It was a convention. A bird flew from outside into his chest. Uh, that was his last day on the pulpit. Uh, he came out, fell ill, um, and the church is scrambling uh, during his illness. And I'm just a young kid, don't know what's going on. Dad is sick. Where's the church that he's serving, that he's been serving all these years? Dad exposed his church to the Christian and Missionary Alliance in the States, and there were trips back and forth between Liberia and America and stuff like that. So when he got sick, I assumed that the church would come through to help with his medical bills and stuff like that. They could not come through. They could not come through, and he's suffering. So um, I managed somehow and raised $12,000. Brought that to the church. When I brought that to the church they were wide eyed now. Now they're ready to work. Meanwhile, the church, the money in the church budget sits there. Nobody wanted to touch that. Long story short, he went through the surgery, um, and eventually he didn't survive. At a few months after the surgery, maybe 6 months down the road, he lost his life. Um, I did minister at his wedding, still having a heart of ministry, thinking that this is just so godly, and this was just an outlier. That happened. So now, mom, who was missionary in the church at the time, it was said that she would take what you call a widow's mite. That means dad's salary will go to her, or maybe a fraction of his salary go to her. That happens for 1 month. The following month, uh, the kid in college, oh, her son is working, and the son is going to take care of her. That stopped dramatically. That stopped dramatically. Um, and so there was a complete disregard uh, for his work. There was a complete disregard for the church stepping out for him. How do we know all of these things? It's not a fallacy. Um, One of his relatives actually was speaking out loud in the dream, explaining all of these events that happened, and how the person who actually attacked dad spiritually was the deacon in the church, and he eventually died. But before he died, normally the witches will normally come out and explain their story as far as what they did to a particular person. So he came out and explained that. So the legend remains that that was the background of his death out of that church. Um, Now, what has the church done um, to withhold his name? Not much. I reached out to the pastor. I'm like, okay, Dad served this church. There's no emblem. There's no memorial for him in this church. What do we do? Can we do a scholarship fund? What can we do to actually show that he served here, to preserve his legacy and to preserve his work here? Up till date, nothing has happened. Mom served the church very well. Mom just went back home. Um, she was nostalgic. She needed to go home. She went back home. She went back to the same identical church. I'm gonna end this story in a minute. But mom went back to the same identical church because that's her husband's church, and she thinking that maybe these folks have changed, stuff like that. She went in, but she fell ill. When I heard about it, I did a video call. I had to make a trip to Liberia. Within 3 days, I was in Liberia. I picked up mom. Within 2 weeks of my stay in Liberia, she is here with me now. However, this same church has not given her a phone call.
Mm.
The same church has not given her a phone call. And while she was sick in their midst, all they cared about was the tithe that she was paying to them because she's a faithful tithe payer. And her presence there in the fast and prayer and stuff like that. They needed her around. They didn't really care about her health. And they just proved the fact that up to today's date, she has not received a phone call to say, how are you? How do you feel? And stuff like that. So that's the background um, of my first experience with the church. It's my first adult moment with the church at early age of 20, 21, around that area. That was just eye opening for me. And moving forward, we can discuss that more. It gets better.
Wow. Wow. You know, Iman, that story is, man, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
But you said something that really struck a chord with me, right? You were, I think, 19 and 20 when you started when you started seeing some politics in the church, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, and this is what I want to know because now I'm gonna put myself in it now, right? Me as I'm 24, but I started to see some things too, maybe at a younger age, maybe 16, 17, 18. Yeah, yeah, maybe 17, 18. But it just shows you the depth of how low people will go for titles and positions in the ministry. If I tell you that most people are in it for the love of God when it comes to ministry, it is not the truth. It's not the truth. The thing is, a lot of times, a lot of people, especially because of the way religion has set, even though the church was founded by Jesus Christ, the way religion has messed it up, it's so much politics, so much drama, so much chaos, so much confusion in the church, and it's all about titles and positions.
But man, religion
Hmm.
has been around forever. Church
Hmm.
folks has been around forever.
Hmm.
They're the one who reported Jesus Christ to Pontius Pilate
Yeah.
and said, "Listen, This dude right here, he says, he's the king of the Jew, and if he's the king of the Jew, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
And these are the church folks then. Um, and Ponte Pilate said, listen, this dude has done nothing. I don't see any dirt on him. He's your own folks. You're bringing him to me to persecute him. I've washed my hands out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Even at that, they still persecuted him because the religious mindset was so deep, and they just couldn't see beyond that. And this is happening today. It's still here. The same church folks are still here.
And they killed him because they felt threatened. Basically, they felt threatened.
Oh,
And
certainly,
and and
certainly.
and 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 and, and, and with your father's death, I mean, it's so sad that you lost your loved one, all because he told the person to step down from the position. First of all, the thing is, to me, is like this. I'm sure when that man was born, right, his mom did not name him Deacon. You get what I'm saying? His mom didn't name him
Yes,
Deacon. He had his own name, all right? He
yeah,
was
yes, sir.
appointed a deacon at a certain place. But because he messed up in his position and it was so grave that they couldn't keep him, and the pastor told him to step down, listen, you get positions, you lose positions. It is what it is. But that should not cause you to take a life of an individual, somebody who has a wife and has a children, all because of a church title. It's disgusting. And me myself, I've seen even myself, even yeah, no, I'm interviewing, bro, but now you're gonna make me get out now. I've even
Yeah,
me,
it's okay.
I've seen, myself, I've seen how people can, because of title and positions, and this is what I want, and this is what I want. If I don't get what I want, go to the lowest depths of hell to take a leader out, and it's so disgusting. It's
Without
so
a doubt.
discouraging. So my question to you is, how did you recover? Like when you lost your father, right? Um, what was the process like? What how did your mother help you through that process? What was your short term reaction to his death, and how did his death affect you in the long term?
Well, mom was just being mom, just being nurturing, and being the oldest child. I had to pick up the baton and run with it. So I just pick up some of those elements, some of those wonderful elements and attributes of dad, his work ethic, his love for people, his ability to come up in a room and light up the room, that charisma. So I picked that up, and I ran with it. And everything that I did, um, it was to please God, and still, if when Dad was here, he would appreciate that I did that. If Dad was here, he would appreciate that I went to college, that I got a master's, that I went beyond. I went against the odds and became someone in life. So that was a backdrop. My short term was sort of shocking to me, and I was just looking to see what would transpire out of that in the short term. Obviously, nothing happened. In the long term, nothing happened. They're more fixated on how can they amass wealth for their immediate family. That was just so glaring. How can they command and make folks guilty to pay tithe to them, and that tithe is misused to support their own lifestyle? That's what I saw when I was, at that very tender age. And in most places, that's what still happens, sadly.
So can you identify them as Christians then? Those
Well,
type of people
Christians, well, you shall know them.
by their love.
You should know that they're Christians by their love. Anywhere where there is no love, I don't consider those Christians, because folks that go to church, um, not because you go to church, you are Christian. No, we shall know they are Christians by their love. And love is an element that is rapidly disappearing from the church now. So if you go to church for 100 years, or you're the pastor, that doesn't make you a Christian. Because followers of Christ are Christ-like. They're not judgmental. A lot of Christians are very judgmental,
Hmm.
extremely judgmental. The way you dress, they judge you. The way you sound, they judge you. The kind of music you produce, they judge you. Look at Kirk. Look what happened to Kirk Franklin when he just came on the scene.
Hmm.
So the Bible says, "Judge not, that ye be not judged." We have people who just they're in the church and they're gatekeepers, especially um, the so-called deacons that consider themselves like
Oh
the
yeah.
bodyguard or the gatekeepers. And we're gonna dig deep into that. We're gonna explain experiences here. We're gonna maybe provide some names and details. It's not designed
Mhm.
to relegate anyone. It's not designed to judge anyone. It's just facts.
Yeah.
We're gonna lay down the facts in plain terms.
We've experienced it, and I feel like the experiences that we've gotten from all this, we need to use this for, we need to use this to help other people that are experiencing it as well, and so that you can
Yes, sir.
overcome. Because
Yes,
you
sir.
you as well know my story. You know there used to be times I used to be super depressed when it came to
Listen,
church
man.
stuff. I used to be
Man,
super depressed.
before you even understood how to spell the word church, I was mentoring you. So I see you grew up and experiencing this is disturbing to me. That's the reason why I actually agreed to do this show with you and to put out to shine light on those different areas. I saw what you went through. I saw the areas where you actually were depressed, literally. And you would call me and say some things. I'm like, wow, you know. So it's critical that we actually talk about it. This is just a surface, guys. We're coming with more.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. We're gonna go deep into it. We're gonna go deep. So after your father's death, now, just to go back to that, um, and okay, when did you start to look at church from a different angle? Was it right after his death, or there was other things that are transpiring, or maybe the way, or okay, let's say after the way they treated you or your mother when it came to the money, like what did you leave church for some time, or were you still there?
Oh well, I didn't leave church because I was predisposed to the culture, especially I was introduced to gospel music at a very early age. So I predisposed to the culture, and I felt as a young child that it just these people, it
Mm,
may not be across the board, but then I got exposed to other places where I served as music minister at various churches, and same thing, bro.
mm,
Same thing. It has to be either. Sometimes the pastors are great, right? But then the folks around him are the folks who's going to bring the dirt. And
mm,
sometimes the pastor is the one who is actually co-signing the dirt too.
mm,
And sometimes they're going after the pastor. So it's almost like the devil just plant these people in the churches, and they just manifest
mm,
the devil's work
mm,
in the
mm.
church, whether they're ushers or they're pastors or they're choir directors or choir members. It feels like the devil just take these folks and just drop them in different churches to create all of these hurt. You have over 40 to 45,000 denominations, man, in Christian
For what?
denominations,
For what?
and they don't even work with each other. They don't like each other.
Hmm.
All right, I'm Baptist. Um, I'm SDA.
Hmm.
Or I'm Lutheran, or I'm Methodist. Different doctrine, and they don't mess with each other because they feel that they're doing the right thing, and the other guys might not be doing the right thing. Um, and it just get really muddy, man. And for young guys like you guys coming up, you need to go deep and understand that church church is not enough for you guys. A relationship with Christ one on one is what you guys need to really tap into.
Yeah, no, but it's all about the relationship. If I was a Christian based on religion, I probably wouldn't even be a Christian. But the reason why I'm a Christian and the reason why I'm still in church is because of my personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Right?
Yes.
Religion and Jesus Christ are contrary to each other.
It is contract because the
Hmm.
Muslim faith is a religion, right?
Hmm.
Okay, that's religion.
Hmm.
That has very little to do with Christ.
Hmm.
Um, there are other faith across the world that we can. If we start to name here, it'll be another 15 minutes.
Hmm.
So religion is not Christ. It's not Christianity, and going to church is not Christianity either. But that one-on-one relationship with Christ that is unshakable, where you're more into your element when you're in your closet, you're closer to God when you're in the quiet of your home, as opposed to being the guy who come up there and the one who's speaking in tongue the most, the one who's praying the most, the one who is the first on the church campus, and all of those things. Um, we don't define Christianity along those lines. When Christ was here today, he would be hanging out with folks in the ghetto
Oh
because
yeah.
that's where the hurt is. That's where the hurt is. He would go in there and actually hang out with this guy. That's what he did,
Yeah.
and he was judged. He was actually judged for that purpose.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and another thing about religion too is that it makes you to portray a false image of self-righteousness,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Like, for example, like this is, I think to me this is a big thing because this is something that people are really obsessed with, dressing, right?
Hmm.
People, for some people believe that, you know, as a Christian, um as a man of God, you must wear a suit. You must appear righteous. You must have your white collar on. You must be this. You must be that. You know, and it's like to say that the people that wear jeans and t-shirts and jerseys, God doesn't love them, or they're not Christians, or they don't identify as
That's why
Christians.
the devil wear. That's why the devil wear that.
Mhm.
That's why the
Oh,
devil
whew.
send his folks in the churches, and they wear the sharpest suits. They sit in the front and stuff like that because that's what you want. That's that. But if you just open up your heart to those who just want to come in, this girl, you know, her name is Nay. She was in New York. You know, she's tomboy. She's gay, stuff like that. She talked to
Mhm.
me when I was serving the community there. She's like, Manny, you know, the way you relate to me. If you had a church, I would go there because I don't feel I fit in any church. I don't feel like I fit in any church. I'm a girl. I dress like a boy, and my lifestyle wouldn't allow them to even get in there. I would be an outlier.
Mhm.
I'm like, you got a point there, but you know, try to find Christ for yourself
Yeah.
and forget the four walls for now. Even though Holy Convocation, we have to do that, right? As Christians, we get together in Holy Convocation to encourage each other. And for the guys who study the word, who understand how to interpret it, we listen to him and he preaches to us, right?
Right.
Um, so that's necessary to encourage each other to actually to increase your faith. Um, you know, but the fact that folks go to church and the way you dress, you get judged because of that. Um, you know, it's happening everywhere,
Yeah. Yeah,
and it's
and that's why,
disturbing.
like, I'm just I'm confused because I mean, where does it where in the Bible does it say thou shalt wear a coat suit? Thou must wear your shirt fully buttoned. Like, I'm sure God is not gonna send you to hell because you didn't wear a Calvin Klein suit. All right, I'm sure God's not gonna send you to hell because you ain't had a long robe on. So I mean, I think it's time for us to grow up and mature and realize that, listen, people are different. But something that you said, you know, concerning Nay, right?
Yeah.
Everything she said is 100% correct, and I'll tell you why. And you know this, right? When it comes to the LGBTQ community, the Christian the Christian community, some of us has really demoralized, bashed, hurt, and internally damaged them. I'm gonna keep it real, bro. Like, I mean, for example, I'm sure this girl has heard God hates gays.
I mean,
Such a
she may
strong
have
statement
heard
like
it.
that.
I mean,
A
she may
strong
have heard it,
statement.
but the thing, it comes back to biblical principles, right?
Hmm.
For me, I'm not a your typical righteous guy that you find in the street and just figure out what I'm a Christian or not.
Hmm.
But those promises that I carry in my consciousness every day remind me of how to carry myself, right?
Hmm.
So if a person is gay, all right, society look at them as, you know, outcasts or whatever it is. You as a Christian, your Bible tells you not to judge anyone.
Exactly.
That's what your Bible tells you. So do that and stop judging folks.
And stop putting somebody else's sin over in somebody else's sin. Sin is sin at the end of the day. So if you're jumping on this person because you said they're committing a sin, what about you who is sowing a seed of discord in the church? Huh? What about you that is sleeping around with 7 different women in the church? What about you? What
Yes,
about
sir.
me? I have my own struggles too. What about me? That I have my temper issue. This is we are all sinners.
We have no rights to point fingers.
We're all sinners.
We have no moral authority,
Yeah.
no moral authority to point fingers at anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Because Christ said that our righteousness is to him. It's
Yeah.
like a filthy rag. A filthy rag.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our righteousness looks like to him. We can only be righteous through Christ. But
Only
if you
way.
come up and think because of the work that you're doing and you're the, this, that, the other, whatever way you decide to justify it, I'm sorry, you're in the wrong. We
Yeah.
should not judge anyone, period.
And listen, and let me say this. Uh, Anybody, if you're in church and your pastor says, God didn't make Adam and Steve. God made Adam and Eve. Get out of that church.
That's judgmental.
Get out of that
I mean,
church. There's a divide.
they'll
He's
get
just
out themselves.
divisive.
They'll get out themselves, but yeah,
That's
that's very
divisive.
judgmental. Very
So,
judgmental.
so now, okay, let's go back. Now you're in Africa. You experienced that, right? Now you come to America, right? It's a whole different ball game. But I wanted to ask you this question, right? Because I wondered, like, okay, you went through all those bad experiences with the church. You lost your father, right? But you still stayed in church. You
Yeah,
came to America. I'm sure you went to church, right?
yeah.
Um, I want to know, after losing your father, right? You've come to the states, and I know you, and I've heard you call several people your mom, right?
Hmm.
But the only person I've ever heard you call dad, right, is my father, Bishop
Yeah.
Kuyata Senior. Now my
Yes,
question
sir.
is this, which I'm very curious about. When you went through all that trauma and you saw how ugly the church is, right, and how some
Hmm.
pastors can really be jacked up, same way with leaders, right? When
Right.
you came to the states, um, and you met him, were you looking for a fatherly figure, or was it natural? Like, why were you open to being mentored by him, or being like taking him as a dad? Were you so open? Like, how did that happen? Were you looking for, or did it just happen?
Now, I wasn't looking for a dad at all. You know, the closest person that I thought could be a dad or father figure in my life was my father's partner,
Hmm.
Dr. Liberty. That's who I thought would be a fatherly figure who would look out for me, and not just me, but for my siblings and my mom. That didn't happen. So
This
I
is
wasn't
here.
looking. But,
This is here, right? Or back
well,
home?
we get back home transitioning.
Okay, okay.
Um, yeah. So when I got here, well, many years ago, over 20 plus years ago,
Yeah.
um, so Bishop Koyate and I, we clicked in a sense where it was very natural. I saw a lot of my dad's element in him. He was very humble. He cared about the person over ministry.
Yeah.
Okay, he cared about the person over ministry. He wouldn't compromise a person because church got to start at a certain time. He wouldn't. The human person meant a lot to him, just like Christ. The human person meant a lot more to him than the church as an object. So, and when he took me in as a son, not in the sense where I live with him, but he'll be going places and he's like, "Oh man, I'm going to preach over here. Let's go." It's not even, "Can you come?" You so let's go. Let's go. You're going to play. I'm going to, and it was just so natural that I would just go with him, and he has not done anything contrary to what a father should be to a person in my life. And I think that's how pastors should carry themselves and be people centered. If you ever heard that word before,
Yeah.
you have to be people centered because the church is about people. Yeah, so that's how I gravitated to the bishop.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So because y'all been kicking it before I even came on the scene. You know what I mean? Like, before I was even
Yes,
born,
sir.
y'all were like, he was like, he was already calling you son. So I just met you as a big brother. So I'm like, well, this is just my, this is my big homie. So, but I love that. I love the fact that you saw that in him, because that is truly who he is. I'm not saying that because that's my dad, but knowing him and what he stands for and how he is as a person, yeah, like, I could co-sign that 100%, bro.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
when I had my accident in 2018, he was the first guy on the scene.
2018.
Wait, no, 1998.
Oh yeah, I was one.
1998. Yeah. He
Wow.
was the first person in there, and I'll throw a little light on the accident part, so you get some perspective on that.
Yeah, yeah. No, tell them about the accident. Tell them about the accident. They need to hear about that.
Oh well,
It's
the
crazy.
accident happened in uh, 1998. When my aunt asked me to come out to Jersey, there was better opportunities and stuff like that. And when I came in, she was with this pastor called Kinsley. Some of you guys may have heard the name Pastor Kinsley Asamoah. He's a Ghanaian dude. So my aunt is with him. He told me to come through. I can go to school. Came through, working in the city and going to school in New Jersey as well. So go to work in the city in the morning, come back in the evening, go to school, and just repeat that circle. Trying to establish my life, at that early age. So I'm in the house. I have a keyboard as always. On
Hmm.
my free time, I'm rehearsing there. I go to church with them on Sundays and play at the church that they went to. So I went in there and started, eventually became the music minister. Um, Eventually, something happened and they had to sort of leave the church or something like that. Just within that window, the name of that church was Christ Memorial Church. That's the name of the church. So one day, you know, came home. My cousin and I, we came home. It was a weekend. The door is locked, man. The door is locked. Pastor Kinsley is not home. His wife, my aunt, is not home. All right, where are these folks? All right. Long story short, they have traveled overseas, but the door is locked from inside. How is that possible? We called the Seattle police. Police came in, broke the door down, searched the entire house. Nobody's in the house. What did they do? They put a check behind the door and went through the window. Now, why don't you just tell us, listen, dude, you guys don't come back in? We would have been fine. So at that point in time, we're in there. I'm stuck because I go to school in Jersey in the evening. I go to work in the city, trying to graduate and get gainfully employed. Um, of course, I was invited to Jersey for that purpose to get to get things in order.
Hmm.
Um, there's a call that came back from Ghana that we should leave the house. My aunt's husband, Pastor Kinsley, called that we should leave the house. My cousin and I. My cousin is not in school, so he left and went to New York. So I asked them to give me at least a month, and I would be out. At this point in time, Manny, I'm working. I'm grinding, working
Mm.
two jobs. I'm going to work at a pharmaceutical company somewhere in Piscataway, New Jersey, from say 9 to 5, and then from
Mm.
6 to 2 a.m. I'm going to work at some company called White Rose. At that point in time, I had an associate degree in accounting, so I was doing some books for them overnight. And one fateful night, coming home from work, I had an accident, and then the accident was so devastating that I had to be airlifted. I had to be airlifted in a helicopter. Just before that, shortly before that, I found myself going into an opening, and a person, an entity, and this is not, I can just remember it vividly. An entity helped me helped me uh, with my right arm and took me back to the intersection where the accident took place on Washington Road. If you guys know the area in Sayreville. And when the person, I think it was an angel, when the person got me to the intersection, they just disappear, whatnot. Um, and I heard a sound. This particular sound was like a loud sound. It was the police or the paramedics trying to cut the car open with a power saw because it was so, you know, it was devastating. And they couldn't put me in a ambulance. They had to airlift me to Robert Wood. Long story short, broke my femur. It's the biggest bone in your body. Broke my clavicle. Uh, So I'm in the hospital recovering. Uh, Came back to the same very house where the pastor asked me to leave for no reason. Some of the reasons were I play keyboard in the house and the electricity bill is going up. Now these are things that I remember vividly. This is evil, bro. This
Yeah,
is
yeah.
evil. Nobody can dispute this because it's a fact. Um, Back home trying to recover. Now, dude is now very friendly now though, because he probably think that we're gonna get some money now from selling. So dude switch up. The same guy who's asking me out of the crib, he switched up and started being nice. And at the time I came from Connecticut. Remember, I and the car was still registered in Connecticut. And my boy in Connecticut right now, he's a pastor, Caleb Yalate. He may be watching us. So at the time, we're very young and foolish. The car was the insurance lapse. He didn't give me any
Oh.
information. I didn't know driving the car and stuff like that. So long story short, the point I'm trying to make now is there was no insurance on the car. There was no insurance on the car. Therefore, you wouldn't get paid for damages in New Jersey. New Jersey law doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Um, Now the pastor realized that there's going to be no insurance money. He flipped again. He flipped now. He went back into his shell. No more help because he knew that there was no insurance money coming in. Bro, we'll be going to appointments, right?
Mhm.
And dude showing me like resorts that we could buy. And I'm like, thinking that there's money coming through and stuff like that. But so at that point in time, he got to a place now where he went back into his shell, where he's no longer like he's no longer nice to me anymore because he
Mhm.
felt that there's no resources coming out of the accident.
Mhm.
So at this point in time, I'm being grateful to God now. I'm like, God, you gave me a new lease on life. What can I do, to uplift your name? What can I do to help the community?
Mhm.
What can I do that is sustainable? Because I know there's a reason why uh, you brought me back, to this life. Because I literally was, I should have been dead. I wish we had a picture of the car so folks can actually see exactly what I'm talking about. But during my healing time is when I found a second chance, um, right within that healing time. And so, fast forward, Manny, fast forward, fast forward. I'm still on crutches, mind you.
Mhm.
Dude came back. Now I got to leave the crib now. All right. So
So,
they
so
never
this is the
changed.
pastor, right? This is the pastor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Just want the viewers to
Yeah.
know that this is the pastor that's doing all this. Just letting you know.
Pastor Kinsley Asamoah. He's in New York right now. Um, and and may her soul rest in peace. My aunt. May her soul rest in peace. They were together, so they said the two should become one. So I don't know what the dynamic was, but that's what I experienced
Sheesh.
with them. Um, so I was asked out again. Why, man? I'm not crazy. I'm not one of those crazy dudes that are doing stuff and smoking weed, or I'm going to these churches. These guys consider themselves a member of, and I'm ministering at these churches. What is it that was so bad that I needed to, leave the crib so badly? Maybe they can explain that to you. I don't know, but I was asked again to leave, and I did, man. I did leave again on crutches. I found a second chance. We did the first event. Things were fine. There are other details that I wouldn't explain now because of time,
Mhm.
but that's what transpired dealing with that other pastor. A bishop knows him very, very well. Bishop Kuyata knows him very, very well, and he knows the story too because he was at the hospital. And because there was no insurance money, this dude flipped again. He thought that we were going to get a settlement or whatnot. Um,
So he only wanted to. So he was only being nice because he thought he could get something out of you, but not because
of course,
as a Christian you're supposed to care about your a fellow man, and not just be concerned about your own well being, not just be concerned about your own well being, but be concerned about others, right? Okay,
yeah,
now you found a second chance. All right, this is a ministry that has been around for 22 years, right? And though I
Yes,
was not
sir.
around for the early years because I was, I was really young, I was around for the later years. And also you were in a lot of churches. You were serving a lot of churches, right? Maybe there are things that went on before, I was even, in the group, but I know you went through a lot of craziness, you know, when you were in, where you were, right?
Yeah.
So
Yep.
tell me some other experiences that you had because I know you had a lot of crazy experiences, bro. Like you had a lot of crazy experiences. So like let me know some times like in the churches where it's like, like it's like, man, like are you serious? Like what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, Manny, it was more of an oxymoron because I felt so loved in these churches, Manny. The members, they loved me, man, and then when these things happen out of left field, then it shocked the crap out of me. I'm gonna start with this church right here that's called Christ Memorial Church. It was right there off Water Street in Staten Island. All right, so when I got to the church, I used to serve a church in Edison, um, and mom was with me then. It was a very diverse church. She didn't feel too comfortable, and she was comfortable with the church in New York and stuff like that. So we went there, and I was serving there. I saw the church had a grave need. The roof was periodically leaking. Um, they were using summer chairs in the church. I told the pastor, I said, listen, we need to change this around. I'm not just a music minister here, but I have some organizational skills that we can put into play. I agree. We did a fundraiser, and we were able to do the roof. We were able to recarpet the church. We were able to get better seats in the church. But long story short, Second Chance as a gospel group was rehearsing in that church. Are you following?
Yeah, I'm
So,
here.
okay. Now, one Sunday evening, as usual, we got to the church. The church is locked. My key doesn't work anymore. They have locked us out of the church. The same church that we just served, that I served. That's the same church where we had the first concert. Why, man? And tell me why.
I was there.
As
I
the,
was there.
as the custodian, he's like, well, the pastor says so. Really?
No, you know what? I'm sorry. Give me a second. Is that as crazy as it sounds? Is this the other church or the church that you called us on the phone to ask if we were on our way? Remember?
Oh, no, 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 no. That's a different one. This one
Okay,
is
so there's
called,
two.
yeah, this one is
One or
called
two.
Press Memorial. This is the early days of Second Chance, and that's
Okay.
that's when I started seeing a clear picture of what folks are. This pastor was very intimidated. Um, I don't know why, man. I don't understand why he was. The main pastor was a lady, and she had traveled and left this person in place. And apparently, he didn't like that we were doing gospel music in the church. I don't understand, man. I don't
What?
get it. I don't get it. But whatever the explanation is, it's just with them and God. You have young kids who are together trying to serve and not in the streets, man. You're not in the street causing trouble, right?
Mm-hmm.
um, um, on drugs and doing hideous things.
Mm-hmm.
You're a young kid and trying to serve God using a particular medium, which is by far the most evangelistic part of the church, doing gospel music, and they're fighting against that.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
also it puzzled me, and then again, I try to separate the individual from Christians because it's two different things. I try to separate those individuals who profess to be Christians and those who are Christians because again, we should know they're Christians by the love.
But you said something that even though it happened during your time, which is crazy to me because that means that this has been going on for years. Because a lot of my peers have felt the same way you and your peers felt, right? Because I'm also a minister of music. I also play keyboard. I have friends that I have a friend that plays the keyboard as well. I have other friends that sing as well, and for some reason they're not really well. I would say it takes some time for them to get really pushed or accepted in the church. Am I
Mm.
wrong? It's like when you first, as a young person, when you first get to that position where you're doing music on a grand scale like that, instead of getting support, you get backlash.
Yeah, yeah.
And I never
And
understood
man,
that.
mind you, around that time, we had gone to the McDonald's Gospel Fest,
Oh, okay.
um, sharing stages with great gospel artists. The group was vibrant. Tell me, what kind of church would want to have such a group use their space as their home? I can't seem to put logic to it. What kind
Because
of church that's a loving church wouldn't open her doors for a group of young folks who are doing so well? It was the first group that ever made it out of Staten Island, um, into the McDonald's Gospel Fest, selected out of 40,000 other groups, not 4,000, 40,000, Manny,
40,000.
out of groups from across, the nation. We made it in the newspaper in Staten Island. There were encouragement amongst the youth. Everybody wanted to be a part of this group, but then you have churches kicking them out of the edifice.
Yeah.
For what reason? I don't understand.
But I'll tell you I'll tell you some of the reasons. One of the reasons is the thing about some of us as a people, we love for people to do good, but not great. You get what I'm saying? Like at
Okay.
first, like people want you to succeed, but if it gets to a place where it's like really like serious in terms of success, like it's really legit. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Because
Oh yeah.
we have a very jealous or envious spirit. You know,
Tell me about it, man.
so when it's like when
Tell
you
me
reach
about
that place of prominence and the Lord
it.
is
Yeah.
blessing you,
Yeah.
there's there's gonna be some attacks.
Wait, I
And
have another one for you.
okay, tell
I
me.
I have another one for you. Check this out. First Central Baptist Church, right there in Staten Island too.
Hmm.
We have this project, this concert, um, and the charges for the hall, right, for the use
Hmm.
of the church, where they paid, um, and you know, of course, it's Second Chance. Then back then, it was a very sensational gospel group with a bunch of young people. It made it in the newspaper again.
Hmm.
As soon as this guy's the deacon, I forgot his name, Deacon Sim or something like that. I forgot his name. The deacon saw that the concert was in the newspaper, right?
Hmm.
Um, he called me. Oh, you guys have this concert in the newspaper. You guys have been making money. We have to charge you guys this amount and not this amount anymore. And he's
Hustling.
adamant, Manny, very aggressive. I'm like, what? Did we do anything wrong? Is it wrong that we promote the concert to have more folks come out of the community to come and listen to gospel music and words of encouragement? Long story short, we had to change the venue, Manny. We had to change the venue to a different church, and this was just 2 weeks in, 2 weeks into this concert. Another experience with the same church, and that's before Dr. Carolina came in. It was Dr. Rice. Um, Dr. Carolina and I, we became very, very close. So I'm not sure if he even knew that these things were going on because he's a people-centered person.
Hmm.
But we had another concert at First Central Baptist Church. Bro, we're having a concert, and this same deacon guy, uh, supposedly that the time allotted for the concert has come to a close, so we need to get out. So instead of whispering to one of the leaders, he's flickering the light in the midst of people ministering. We have people, folks came from Philadelphia, from other places, and they're ministering. Towards the end of the concert, he has zero patience or even diplomacy to come and say, listen, I'm not sure if it was because we were young or it's just a complete disregard for um, I don't understand it, man. Maybe somebody can put reason to it. But this guy was flickering the light. It's almost like, yeah, it's time to get out of here. You guys,
Disrespectful,
whatever you guys
basically.
are doing here make no sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
disrespectful, base. Again. Too. Here's the thing, right? Even the sound of our music, right? It's our music is not really traditional based, right? And number
Right.
two, when you don't fit that church culture image, they're not as open to you. You get what I'm saying? And a lot of times too, what happens is, and maybe I may be wrong, but here's the thing, bro. Like a lot of times, some of these pastors that maybe have, you know, got cold feet with you guys, like with you, right? Maybe it was because let me tell you the problem. Usually, the medium between the pastors and the members is the leaders that are in between them. They're the ones that they could be the ones that are confusion, the confusionists in the church. Sometimes the
They
leaders
could,
they
they
pressure
could
the
actually put
pastor.
the pastor in a really tight spot too.
Thank you.
They
That's what
can
I'm gonna
put
say.
the
They
pastor
put
in a
they
tight-
put the
Yeah.
pastor in a tight spot, right?
Yes, sir.
Because they don't feel comfortable, because they feel threatened, because they're not shining in front of everybody else. So when somebody else
True that.
comes in, they get intimidated, they feel uncomfortable. So now they put pressure
True
on the
that.
pastor. Now, if the pastor doesn't do what they say, then it becomes an issue. So it's
True
too
that.
many. It's too many scenarios. Too much politics. Too much politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my question: is where does the love of God come in? Where
I
does
don't
the
know, man.
Great Commission come
Listen,
in?
it's missing in the church today. Love is missing in the church, and it's very sad.
You're right.
It's this place where you go, you should actually feel love. But again, maybe the devil just planted his people in there.
Some people that are
Maybe.
being used by the devil, they don't even know. But my
I don't
question is
know.
this. Another question I have is this, bro. Right? And when you talk about young people, right? And I may be wrong, but it's very rare when you see churches support young people. My question is, why is the church, some of the church, why are we so against supporting young people that want to serve in ministry, or that can actually make an impact or a difference? Why aren't they supported? Why are they always put down? Why are they always like, I don't understand. Why is it that you have to constantly tell them, listen, you have to support the young people. The young people are the future of the church. Why is it that they are so ostracized? Why is it that they are so ignored? Why is it that
Judgmental,
they're
man.
so,
Judgmental.
yeah? But
Judgmental.
I think it's yeah,
They,
but
they
I
think,
think it's more, bro.
yeah, they think you guys are, you know, sinful.
Mm,
Um, and they're judgmental. The way you dress sort of
mm,
jarring to them.
mm,
The progressive church will actually embrace young people because the future of the church is a young folks. If you embrace them and love them, you can teach them easily. You can teach them easily, and they will gravitate to ministry. Right now, young folks to gravitate to ministry, uh, now it's almost like trying to squeeze some milk out of a
oh,
rock.
oh, yeah.
So as a young person, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that they would even give me the chance, to go further in ministry. Most of what I did in ministry, some that I trailblazed. I created my own platform. I created, those different events. And what I did was I just rented the churches to have the concerts.
Mm-hmm.
And then the churches that I served, um, of course, you're relegated to what you do there as music minister. You teach a choir, and minister on Sundays. They like that, but anything beyond that, where they're gonna have to pour into you, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
see that, bro. They want to get out of you whatever they can get out of you, but when it's time to pour into you, it was very, very difficult. And I have so many different instances where even the last church that I served in New York, Christ Assembly Lutheran Church. Um, I've done some work with the Bishop Sibley, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I got there, he's more of a fatherly figure to me as well, and he supported everything Sections did. Man, every event, the bishop was there. So I'm like, okay, let me just get into the church and help the bishop out. So got into the church. We did a major, major renovation project. A major. I was full front. I put my all into it. Um, I was able to do a grant for the church for 37,500.
Mm,
Right, from zero to $37,500 because I have grant writing skills as well. Took the bishop to one of the board members' home. Um, we sat down. We had a conversation. They took a look at the proposal. The proposal was great. I was serving as in the music ministry as well as the financial secretary of the church,
yeah.
right? So I was able to put together a budget. A 3-year budget that project where the church was headed. Um, and within that budget, there's a formula that you use that will allow people to actually give to the church. It's like a 75-25 formula where the church is able to raise 25% of its own budget, and the other 25%, you can go to outside sources and write grants, but the grant has to
Right.
make sense, because
Right.
folks don't just give money out like that. Long story
Hmm.
short, I know I said long story short 200 times.
No, 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 no. You good, bro?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
good?
we're trying to be efficient with time here because we can do this all night.
Yeah,
Um,
right, facts.
yeah, but the money came through. The church is running. The church beautiful right now. Wonderful
Yeah.
church. But this is the point I'm trying to make, Manny. First, still very close with the bishop though. They church administrator, right? Some
Mm.
dude in the church. We are asking the church to rehearse at the church, the same church that I just poured into, Manny. Now we're not asking for free. It's write a letter. We wrote a letter and articulated the amount that we would pay every month just to use the church edifice for rehearsal. Okay. I'm talking about the same church where I just did this project with.
You changed the whole entire, renovated the whole entire
Okay. Yeah.
building,
All right.
basically.
Cool. Cool. That's the same church I'm talking about. Uh, Bishop and myself were cool. We worked behind the scenes. Everything was great. Church looks great. Glory to God. God, it's a great thing. No regrets there. But this is the reason why this church came up now. Um, we're in a meeting, right?
I was there,
And
right? I was there.
no, it's a different. It was a different. It was more of a high power meeting. It was somewhere upstairs with the bishop and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, I wrote you guys a letter. Why am I not hearing from you guys? If the church is not available, let us know. Second chance, we'll find another place to rehearse. This church administrator came up and it's like, well, you guys need to have at least you need to show us insurance that you got insurance to use the church. Really? Insurance? My church that I know folks come in here and use this church for free. You don't ask them insurance, but you're asking me to bring insurance from Second Chance. I'm like, okay, I'm done here. I'm no longer serving as in whatever capacity I was. I'm fine. I just want to be a regular member here.
Hmm.
So the door will close along those lines because we didn't have insurance to give them. An insurance policy. We did have insurance policy, but we use those for the after school program.
Hmm.
We use those for different arenas where we're having a concert because now you're having folks coming from outside to come into the church because of you, because of
Hmm.
your organization. But you're talking about a handful of people. Most of the time we were what, 12, 13, 14 folks
Yeah.
coming into the church to just rehearse. Just rehearse, not a concert. If it's a concert and you want a insurance policy, yes. We had a $1 million insurance policy. We will do that. But just to come and rehearse in the church, bro, and we already wrote you a letter that we will pay just to rehearse there. This church administrator um, came in and stepped on it. I'm the wow. I'm the wow. That was an aha moment for me, and that left a really bad taste in my mouth as far as how deep the politics is. Forget anything, my participation in the transformation of the church as an individual that was put on the back burner or slipped underneath the carpet. So it just goes on and on and on again, Annie.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
when does
it
it
goes
stop?
on and
When does it stop? Because
when does it
because
stop?
when does it stop? Because the
I'll
reason
tell
why I
you.
say, mhm.
Yeah, go ahead. Go
No, the
ahead.
reason why I'm saying is because I mean it's clearly it's obvious that listen, some of us are not doing it because we love God. We're doing it because we want to be seen.
Position. People
Position.
get threatened.
Oh my God.
This particular dude was very threatened by me, straight up, very threatened by me. Till today, I don't see him. I'm not sure if I'll ever see him again. Very, very threatened. Why? We don't run in the same circle. We don't do stuff together. But because I'm in and I'm trying to make a difference in the church because I felt that the bishop had always supported me, and I needed to come in to reciprocate that love. And that's a backlash that I got. But one thing I want you to know, Manny, and I want maybe the audience to know that all of these things have not broken me. It just made me a better person. It
Amen.
just gave me a broader perspective on the field that we play in as people of God and folks who have decided to say, well, yes, there's a God and I'm going to seek him diligently. Those are just different perspectives. Um, and where do we go from here? Just quite recently, Manning, quite recently, you were a part of that project. Kim Burrell.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So we're hosting Kim Burrell in New York for the first time. Kim Burrell has never been to New York to do a concert. Okay. I
Mm-hmm.
know she has some issues with the LGBT community just around the time we hosted the concert. And so the first time it was really hot. I think that they actually was going to do something to her because she said something about the LGBT community uh, on her pulpit.
Mm-hmm.
But when things quiet down, she still came to Staten Island, right? She still came to a Second Chance concert. I believe it's the last concert we did in Staten Island to
Mm-hmm.
date. I think it was
Mm-hmm.
2018 or so.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
2018.
don't, during the course of that concert, we're preparing for the concert. Now, this time it's a church called Trinity Baptist Church,
Mm.
where the late Oliver Gibson served, where Reverend Hutchison was the pastor. Now he's overseas, and there's a new pastor there. Um, and again, we have a contract with this church, right, to minister there, and our coordinator, uh, Evangelist Marilyn Valentine. Um,
Tiny.
the- yeah, I'm going to give these guys the resources every month so we can meet here. Fine, that happens. And then when the concert came up, when the Kimberly concert came up, I personally wrote a check to the custodian. His name is Nathan Law. I wrote that check to him. It was $100, I believe. So when he gave the check to the pastor, AC Moore, she he said, "Well, the pastor said the check was insufficient because we asked her how much do you need." She said, "Whatever you guys have is fine. Whatever you guys have is fine." So he gave the check back to us. I said, "Okay, that's okay. Uh, we're gonna rewrite the check and give you a higher amount because if it's not satisfactory, that's fine. We're meeting here for 2 hours on a Sunday, maybe every other Sunday, not every Sunday." Uh, so he went back with the new check. Uh, a few Sundays down the line, mind you, Oliver Gibson, the late Reverend Oliver Gibson, is the music minister for Trinity Baptist Church and
Mm-hmm.
a key lead singer for Second Chance, and that's his church.
Mm-hmm.
And Trinity Baptist Church, I served for 2 consecutive years, 2 years as music minister. The set of instruments and the sound system, I set it up. And Second Chance, I'm leading Second Chance. Some of their members is a part of Second Chance, and we have a huge concert coming up. We have folks from Cali coming in to do promotion throughout. So it was a huge project, and we're trying to secure a place just to rehearse, man. That's all we're trying to do. You
Okay.
were
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I was there.
Uh,
Me and
you
Edward
were
we
there when
drove
we
there.
yeah. You were there. Guys came from everywhere to a few weeks to the concert. The door is locked.
Yeah.
Call the custodian. His name is Shu. He's not picking up. I called the pastor. She picked up. I'm like, well, what's going on here? We're here to rehearse and the church is locked. Oh, let me call you back. Cool. She didn't call back. I called her back. She didn't pick up. Uh, Minister Bolton Brown, word in the street that the board of the church met and it decided that we don't meet at the church anymore.
The board.
Oh, yeah, man, why don't you write a letter or call one of the leaders and say, listen, we've met and we don't think at this point in time it's okay for you guys to use your church so we can detour into another location. Till today, man, there has been no explanation why from them formally, just a mutual respect, a mutual respect. And mind you, And you know what we do every Christmas? We have
Or the
brand
toy.
new toys,
Yeah.
brand new toys, not cheap toys either. And every church, every church in Staten Island that we can get our hands on, the kids have dozens of these toys, including Trinity Baptist Church.
Even my church in Jersey, you gave toys.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Now, so the reciprocation of love from one Christian to the next, what's wrong with that? What is wrong with that? You know, there's something severely wrong with that picture, man. There's something severely wrong. I can't seem to wrap my finger around it. The only justification I can have, I'm gonna take this off because it's getting a little hot.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. Same here. I
the
need an
only
AC.
justification I can have, man, is these aren't people of God, man. They're
Mm-mm.
not. I'm not judging. I'm not judging, but people of God will demonstrate love because that's a central theme of Christianity.
Yeah.
No matter who you are, whatever denomination you cleave to, the central theme of Christianity is love.
Yeah.
And that is so missing, amongst Christians. And it's really, really disturbing. It's really disturbing.
It's almost like a popularity contest too. Like I noticed, like, for example, it's like if you're different, right? If you're different, if you do things differently, maybe the music you do is different, the way you carry yourself is different, right? It
Yeah.
that is not that normal regular church culture. You're ostracized for it, you know. And
But
again,
your
hmm
church, the church was completely against contemporary music
hmm
and ostracized you for it. And when I came out to help you out to make sure that the sound was solid, I became a part of the target as well. And you're young, you're enthusiastic about the things of God, and you're in the midst of this puddle. That's very sad. And I hope you can learn that these folks um, aren't behaving godly, and then you should learn from the deficit that they're bringing. Don't duplicate the dirt. Don't duplicate that. Demonstrate love in every situation. Every situation you find yourself in, demonstrate love. For instance, the incident that happened with my accident,
hmm
after I survived it, and I went into business and stuff like that. Every single time I saw my aunt, I have to give her something.
mm,
I had to demonstrate love to her because I couldn't harbor that. The fact that, well, she and the husband was the reason why I almost lost my life. Um, Forgive them 100%. And every time I've seen her, I actually genuinely love this woman, genuinely love her. Um, and I would just give her whatever I had. If it was 20 or 30, whatever it was that I had, she will have it. So I just want you to take that for those of you guys out there who, sort of suffering at the hand of a church or at
oh
the hand
yeah,
of some type of deacon or some type of religious freak. Uh, just duplicate, just demonstrate love towards them because they're all over the place. The guys in a strip club or in a bar, they'll treat you with more love than some of these guys in the church, man. It's not even funny.
no, no,
I've,
yeah,
I've
it's
seen
the
it
truth.
all.
It's the truth. I've
I've
heard
seen it
plenty of
all.
time people say, um, you know, the worst people I come across have not been in not been at nightclubs, has not been at school, not been at my job, has been at church. I've heard
Yeah,
that before, and I also concur to that statement as well.
yeah. But man, check
I,
this out too. Around the same Kim Burrell concert, right?
hmm
Around the same Kim Burrell concert. Now, um, I joined a team on this particular Sunday evening or the weekday, or whatever. It was a Sunday afternoon. We're taking these nice flyers, right, that we
hmm
made.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, those laminated flyers. So I went to this little church right there of Victor Boulevard. Um, yeah, and this lady, she's dressed in white, the
Mm.
typical outfit, the typical church outfit. She's in
It's
white.
first Sunday, by the way. It's first
Yeah,
Sunday.
straight white, bro. She's at the door. So we're driving. I said, "Hey, pull over here. Let me talk to this lady." Went up there. "Oh, ma'am, how are you today? Happy Sunday." Blah blah blah. Here are some, flyers. We have Kim Burr coming in town. We're doing a major concert here in Staten Island, and we would like you guys to, just give it out to your members, and you guys can come in. You know, oh no, we don't do that. We don't do that. I'm like, you don't do what? She's like, no. I said, no, it's a gospel concert. She's like, no, we don't do that. So now her son or her grandchild is standing right beside her, right? And he said, "Oh no, no, bro, just give it to me." Because he was embarrassed. Of course, he didn't even fit in our church because he was dressed hip hop. He was wearing his hat backwards and stuff like that. But talking to his grandmom, right, his grandmom right there. So even him, who's not even a churchy person, saw the lack of humility and the arrogance that came out of this churchy woman who was all dressed in white,
Mm-hmm.
who refused to even touch. It's like the flyer had like doo-doo on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was that bad, man. It was that bad. But none of these things are hitting my consciousness. It's just painting a picture.
It just lets
It's
you
like
know
you're
to
watching a
separate it,
movie. Yeah,
separate it,
it's like
separate.
you're watching a movie and it's painting a picture for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Um,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, I'm not sure if you heard of Pastor Emmett Price in Washington.
No.
He actually perpetuated this term church hurt. Most of the guys in his church are those who came from different churches that that experienced church hurt, and he just opened his doors to these guys. But go ahead, man. I'm going to
You,
come
you
in
you
later.
know, and I was saying, when it comes to this church culture, I was just thinking to myself. I said, you will know the difference between a progressive church and a completely overly religious, uh, freakish type of church. Like, for example, my thing is, bro. Like, I want the viewers to know, right? Let's say, just use ourselves for example, you man, right? Let's say you have you put your hat on, right?
Mhm.
And we like the way you're dressed right now, the way I'm dressed right now. If we walk into the church, you got your hat on, you got your hat on. Would we be accepted if we were to go
Yeah,
to
man.
a very religious? Because right now, for example, like I'm sure you got some religious people. Like, okay, first of all, why they wearing their sunglasses? Why they dress that way? Why is this kid got jewelry on? Like, why they wearing a hat on in church? Da, 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 da. Do you know some people are like it really it really irritates them when you wear a hat in church. Like,
Yeah.
it's
So here's the thing, Manny. Here, we serve a God of order, right?
mm-hmm.
Granted, we serve a God of order. Um, and then again, cleanliness is godliness,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so in a church culture, wearing a hat is completely religious.
Yeah.
Okay? Watch what I'm saying. Wearing a hat in church is a religious thing because the Pope wears hat. Don't forget that.
Mm.
But the kind of hat he's wearing is made differently, even though he's wearing a hat in church. The Pope and the hurt the Catholic Church has inflicted on society is a whole different show. You can't even start that because up to date they have spent over $3 billion in settlement. But the Pope does wear hat in church. Some other religious organizations do wear hat in church. But if you go to a certain church wearing a hat with a pure heart, you're looked at weird and sometimes you'll be asked out.
Yeah.
But you go in and wear the dress code, right? And you can be the devil.
Mm.
They probably put you on the pulpit, especially if you're married.
Oh
That's a
yeah.
that's a whole different story. We're going to talk about that one too. But cleanliness is godliness, and we serve a God of order. Um, if it's not appropriate,
Mm-hmm.
for you to wear a certain outfit in church, I would say don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if if it comes to God, I don't know what because we cannot, gauge the consciousness of God. We can't gauge what God accepts. But one thing that I know that God accepts is your heart.
That's it.
It's your
He's not
heart.
concerned about your outward appearance.
All right. He's not concerned about that because
Mm-mm.
you could take that off in a second. I just took
Mm-hmm.
my hat off, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can take that out in a second. God is not concerned about that. He's not concerned about that. And folks have they have the thing where it's in the presence of God. Yes, it is in the presence of God. We agree. And again, godliness is order, and we should be orderly.
Hmm.
But and we should have order in church. There's no doubt about that because you're in the presence of God. But if a person walks in your church that is not wearing your quote unquote uniform, you should not ostracize them. That's a soul that you could save.
Thank you.
That's a soul that you could save that you have just missed. Because the guy came into the church and he's wearing maybe short pants, right? Or he come into the church and he had tattoos over his body. Um, if you look at him weird and don't look at him as a regular soul, you've just lost a soul.
Right.
So I'm not preaching that a person should be disorderly because God is order. I'm not
Hmm.
saying folks should go to church and wear hat in church. I'm not saying any of that because I do not control how God view His people.
Hmm.
One thing I'm sure of is God go by the heart.
That's
He
it.
goes by what your heart has to produce, and I've seen many on many occasions because I did the research. I did the research, and there's so many different Christian organizations that will wear a hat, but it just depends on the kind of hat you're wearing.
Yeah.
Maybe if you're black and wearing a fitted, um, and you go into a church, they may look at you as a gangster or something like that. I don't know, but I wouldn't look at you as that. I would embrace you to know who you are. I would really embrace you and say, "Hey, what's up?" Coming if I'm the pastor, come in my office and stuff like that. Oh, nice hat, and get into your consciousness. That way, I understand who you are. I know your psyche, and maybe you could be a whole different inlet into the church.
Right.
Maybe people that look like you, people that dress like you, can be a whole different ministry.
Right.
So,
Right. And the thing is, man.
judgmental. Yeah, go ahead, man.
Yeah, the thing is, Emmanuel, like this is again, this is where I have a problem with religion. Religion wants you to dress and look a certain way, be a certain way. It doesn't encourage you to be who God truly created you to be. You know what I'm saying? If you were a
Yeah,
religious person, if I was a religious person, this would be a totally different show. This would be we'd probably be dressing something completely different. We'd probably be dressing all white because today is first Sunday, right? Today's first Sunday of the month. So we should probably be wearing
uh,
all white or something like that. Yeah. But the thing
maybe.
is, yeah. But the thing is, the lack of diversity. The lack of diversity. You mean to tell me that you know that your church, if somebody does not look like how you perceive the religious or church setting to be or image to be, that they are not a Christian, that they should not be accepted? Mind you, Jesus Christ accepts
Judgmental.
them. Jesus Christ accepts
Judgmental.
them, right? And he's not
Yeah,
concerned about their appearance, but he's concerned about their inward.
yeah,
Who are you? Who are you to look at somebody up and down and don't feel comfortable with what they put on their skin? But here's the thing. But you be the same person. Excuse me to say, you be the same person if somebody comes in a robe or does all the religious traditions and ideologies. That person may be a sick individual, but you'll accept him because he fits your own ideology of religion.
yes,
And
sir.
to tell you the truth, it sucks. It
Yeah,
sucks because here's the
yeah,
thing. Because at the end of the day, I rather I rather be applauded by God and booed by man, but for what would I say? I wouldn't want to be booed by God and applauded by man. You understand?
yeah.
So
Well, yeah.
so my
If you
connection,
if
my
you want to if
connection,
you, if you want to be employed by man, you be the churchy do. You go in there,
yeah,
and do the churchy thing, even though your heart is as dark, as a tart. But you go in there and do the religious thing, they're gonna accept you. But if you have a pure heart, but you're from a different culture,
mhm,
and your way of the way you dress, the way you carry yourself is jarring to them. They're just looking at the physical um, aspect of who you are, and we should not do that as a church.
right,
We should not do that.
right.
You know, yeah,
So I see the comments, but but we want to focus on what's important right now. We're trying to focus on um what pastors and preachers kids go through. So I see the comment, but we want to focus on what's important. You know what I mean? I don't know if you see the comment. Do you see the comment or no?
Not really.
Okay, yeah. So okay, so he wants me to read it, but it says the Kim Burrell show wasn't a second chance concert. It was 100. It was a thousand voice choir he led.
Nah, well, the concert was put together. This is the history of the concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
The concert was put together by Second Chance. I reached out as the leader of Second Chance. I reached out to the management of Kimbra.
Mm-hmm.
Her management is out of Cali. She's out of Texas. So I reached out. We did the deal. We did the contract. Now, I needed inclusivity. Inclusivity was what was needed to unite the community. So I reached out to St. Quinn. I reached out to all of the other ministers, the other churches I was serving. I reached out to all these guys, and I created a leadership team to form the 100 Voice Choir. That's how the 100 Voice Choir came about to do the concert along with Second Chance. The 100 Voice Choir was more prominent at the concert because that was the whole goal, to bring the entire community in. So it could have been perceived as the 100 Voice Choir hosting a concert. It was not the 100 Voice Choir. So just a correction there, because I play in the concert. I deal with management.
Okay.
Um, and that's a whole different story too. Kim Burrell's management, the manager was, that's a whole different story. And I don't understand why there's so much hostility. There's so much hostility in amongst God's people, man.
Mm-hmm.
We did a contract. We did a contract with Kim Burrell. She came to the airport. We didn't have a car rental in the contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
This dude's calling me. He's like, "Oh, you know what? We have to rent a van for Kim." I'm like, "Well, we already paid you what we agreed upon. It wasn't the extra fee that we would provide." Um, oh well, if you don't do that, she's gonna get back on the flight and go back. I said, "Okay, fine. Let her go back."
Mm.
Why don't you come to listen to we're down on cash, and I think, can you guys just chip in? Let's get the transportation for Kim. But he's very adamant, and he's like, so I'm like, wow, this is God's people, bro.
Wow. So,
Yeah,
but you know what I think too. You know what I think though, because you are a mentor to me as well, right?
yeah,
I believe that most of these that most of these experiences that you went through was used as a tool and a vehicle to help me and other people like me as well that because it's like, to tell you the truth, some of the stuff that I'm hearing right now is like, you know it's similar to what I go through. So it's like, it's so weird to hear it from, to know that you were going through stuff like that at that age, and it's like, it's so similar. So maybe that's why I connect with you like that. Maybe it's just it's really like, I think I get it more now. But I do feel like this, all this that happened was you used, this was done for you to help people, you know, to stay in the things of God, because you encourage me. I would say that you, Albert, Ben, Sis Barbara, Taisha, so many people, Tisha, Augusta, they really encouraged me. They really encouraged me. They really kept me in it, and we still stay connected to this day, you know.
that's good.
So
That's
I
good.
appreciate, Brother Hodges as well. I appreciate that, through all those experiences, bro, right? Stuck in there. And I'm humbled, and I'm humbled to know that, that I'm humbled to know that despite all those things you go through, right? You could have walked
Mhm.
away from the church and said, no, you know what, I'm done with the church. You know what, I don't be bothered with the church. It's too much drama. But you stayed in there because of the love of God.
Yeah, but check this out, man. It did happen.
Hmm.
It did happen for a little bit. It happened where I never ever wanted to see another church door.
I think we've all been
That
there.
happened. Yeah, I didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with the culture anymore because I've seen it all. Um, and then, eventually, I'm like, you know what? Just remove these guys, remove these people out. Remove them out the way, remove them out the way, and just go to the core. And that's what I did.
But I think sometimes God, and it's not wrong to like if you say you want to take a break from maybe church. And I'm not encouraging people to leave church, no, but sometimes if you think like you need to take a break, sometimes you need to just unwind and just have your alone time with God. There's nothing wrong with that.
It was the best time that I did. It was a year, man. But that time, it was. I just asked that I be closer to God and stuff like that. Um, People see my outward appearance, and they don't think they just look at your outward appearance, and they don't think that you have a strong relationship with God. They don't think that you're able to go in your closet and do like a whole straight 50 days prayer marathon. They don't think you're able to do that because you're coming out, you're looking fresh,
Yeah.
you're contemporary in your approach to life. You look at things on the mainstream platform, and you're not weird. You're not a weirdo
It's-
who's holding the Bible everywhere you go. Every conversation, God told me that.
you
God
start yelling
said
at
this.
people,
God
start
said
yelling at
that.
people,
Yeah,
going everywhere yelling at, yeah.
uh, and that's how the hurt is just on. I started with this one guy. I forgot his name. In South River, where you're at, right?
Mm.
Super dynamic preacher, man. He's super dynamic. He did the preaching. I did the music that day. It was great. 2 months later, this guy committed suicide. Why? Why? Because he was molesting his 12-year-old little daughter. Yeah, and I have a few more stories along those lines, but that's not what we're talking about here today. But there are resources out there, books that can help people heal from church. A lot of them are out there. From Church Hurt, there's a book called "Hurt in the Church: A Way Forward for Wounded Christian" by Thomas Berg. There's another book called "Healing Spiritual Wounds: Reconnecting with a Loving God After Experiencing a Hurtful Church." This is by Carol. Um, there's another one. It's called "Wounded in the Church: Hope Beyond the Pain." And all of these are on Amazon. A 40-day devotional for healing from church hurt, and for loving, for living well in ministry. There's just so many books out there, man. I can't even start to name them that can certainly help somebody who's gone through it. Just don't turn your back on God because He does exist and He's real.
That's the big thing that we want people to understand. That listen, these things happen. Listen, the wheat and the test are grow together into the day of harvest. But your
Yes, sir.
relationship and stay connected to God. But we do want to encourage folks to do go to church, but make sure you pick a healthy church home.
Yes,
You
sir.
know, make sure you pick a healthy church home and pick a church that is willing to grow. Because like back to what you said, yeah, like I had some tough experiences even in my church, but but I'm proud to say, and from what my assistant, I think we've grown a lot from that because
Yeah.
this pandemic has changed everything. Because here's the thing, that arrogance of it's all about me, it's what I got to do. Listen, man, people were dying. You were
Mm.
walking outside your house during like when the COVID was really raging, and
Yeah.
you were living in fear.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're still alive, we got to be grateful to God and love each other. And not only that, we are fighting a battle that is bigger than us, especially even as black people. You know, so it's not time for us to be divided, and
No.
especially as Christians, right? We all have one enemy, and
Yes.
that is the devil. But here's the
Yeah.
thing: we got to make sure that we are not allowing him to use us. So Dr. Troop, if you're on, could you send a comment? Is Dr. Truth? Are you around? Um, Hang on. Let me get Dr. Truth. Unmute. So we're gonna have Dr. Truth coming soon.
Okay.
She is a eligible licensed psychologist. Am I right? Am I right? Okay, good, good. Yes. So I think a lot of us too, we've dealt with a lot of trauma. I've dealt with a lot of trauma. You dealt with a lot of trauma. trauma. So we need to even though yes we are Christians and we need to go from a spiritual standpoint, we cannot neglect the mental aspect of it, because the
True
mental
that.
aspect of it can really affect you, right? And that's why
Hmm.
you have certain pastors and preachers committing suicides. You have certain music ministers or leaders falling into depression or committing suicide because of that trauma and that way the devil has used the devil has used religion to kill people's spirit. So it's
Yeah.
something that needs to be it's something that needs to be addressed. Dr. Truth, are you on? Okay, so Hamda's gonna get Dr. Truth. So that's what it is, man. Listen, man. What keeps me? What keeps him? Is not religion. It's not being judgmental, but it's about loving Jesus Christ. So um could she says she's getting the answering machine. So
Well, if you need some resources that can help out, we have some resources that can help folks out there.
hmm
Uh, Folks who may, you know, need like a third party, um, whether it's a book or a website that you can go to. There are enormous resources out there that you can certainly tap into.
okay, hello.
Yes,
No, Iman, were you done or were you?
Oh no, go ahead. We're still having the
Okay.
conversation.
Okay. So Dr. Truth.
yes, I'm here.
Okay. So we know you've been watching, and we need your expertise because you're a preacher's kid. So and not only that, but you're a eligible licensed psychologist. Am I right?
I'm a licensed eligible psychologist, and my name is Dr. Ngonzi Truth Rashawn. I have a private practice in Atlanta, Georgia, and yes, I am here to share resources for anyone that is looking to reach out and connect with a therapist.
Right.
So for therapy services related to trauma, that could be physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, or any other type of trauma, you can reach out to the YWCA, Chicago.org, as well as the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, which is TFCBT.com. Also, you can reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Line, and they can connect you to any resources related to mental health, as well as any suicidal thoughts that you may have because of the trauma or pertaining to the trauma. But you can speak with a licensed therapist on the National Suicide Prevention Line. It's also a 24/7 line, and you can call it any day of the year. And that phone number is 1-800-273-TALK, 8255. So 1-800-273-8255. They also have a text line where you can text on your cell phone the word TALK, which is talk, to 741-741. There are also websites where you can connect with a therapist if you are looking to either speak with a therapist one-on-one or join a support group or join a therapy group. So you can utilize psychologytoday.com, and they have pictures of the therapist, as well as you can enter your zip code in order to connect with therapists near you. And most places take insurance. There's also therapyforblackgirls.com and therapyforblackmen.org. O-R-G. There are also Christian counseling resources. And I'm going to end it up here. I know I'm going on a tangent.
No. It's needed. It's needed. I'm
Okay.
going to ask you a question soon after this too. So.
Okay, I'm going to share 3 Christian counseling organizations where people can connect. Since this is the church hurt and healing segment. So American Association of Christian Counselors is AACC.net, N-E-T. The National Association of Christian Counselors, NACConline.org, O-R-G. and National Christian Counselors Association, the ncca.org. And you can connect with any of those 3 Christian counseling resources for counseling through a Christian-based counselor or therapist.
Wow. Thank you, Dr. Shruth. Thank you, Dr. Shruth. But I just want to ask you this question before you leave, right? With everything you've heard, right? And you know there's a lot of people that have experienced similar things that he have gone through, or similar things that I have gone through in ministry. What would be your encouraging word to them, and what would you encourage them to do besides just the psychology aspect, like the therapeutic aspect, which is very important because, you know, the same way you go to your doctor for your physical health, you go to your dentist for your dental health, you need to go to your therapist for your mental health as well. But also, what would you encourage believers in the faith that are struggling with maybe with a dramatic church, or dealing with dramatic people, or dealing with people that don't usually represent the love of Christ? How do you deal with that, and how do you stay connected and grounded and connected to God?
Okay. So one way that you can remain connected and grounded to God is to also have someone that is objective, that can help you, maybe outside of the church where you've been hurt or experienced church hurt. Because sometimes it may be a subjective view. That means that they may not be able to look at it objectively or from a frame of reference where they remove themselves from the equation, or remove you, who they know, out from the equation. But someone that is not involved in the church extensively can help you maybe through that healing process, or at least to give you another view of what may have happened, so that you can become regrounded in Jesus, regrounded in the faith, and regrounded and reminded of who you are in Christ.
Amen.
Because that person hopefully has an objective view and is not as emotionally attached to the situation as you, and can remind you of who Christ is, and to remind you of what steps and what places to connect with in order to continue or begin your healing. Because it's twofold: that relationship with God, and then the relationship with man, right? So love God first, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. But at this time, it may be some unforgiveness and some forgiveness work, and some healing work, and some transformational work that you may need to go through. So I would say seek a spiritual mentor or a spiritual leader, and that at that time, it may not be the leader that is in your church, because that leader could be influenced or not able to be objective. Mm-hmm. So I would say have at least a spiritual mentor or a spiritual covering that can help you see the situation more objectively, especially when trauma is involved.
Thank you, Dr. Shruth. Thank you so much for that. Emmanuel, want to say something?
Well, I just want to buttress what you guys are saying here, because this is a very, very serious topic here. It's sweeping across this nation, and it's separating families, is literally destroying lives, just because of church politics and lack of love in the church. Right. You have, the background of this is all money, Manny. Just to, put a lid on it, it's all about the money. Whenever you find a church where there's no love, there is something that is being loved there. It has to be the money. You have pastors selling anointing oil, selling
Pastor Peter Popoff.
Oil. It's just unnecessary to do that. You have folks sacrificing their families for ministry. When Christ said that your first ministry is your family, you have pastors sacrificing their families' well-being in the name of ministry. Folks need to stop that. Folks need to stop manipulating people to pay tithes to them, and then they're taking the tithes to support a lifestyle. Your boy Creflo Dollar, he's asking his members to buy him a $65 million jet, private jet. in the name of evangelism and stuff like that, forcing to stop doing stuff like that, because that's when God disappears and then man take the surface, and that's when you have deification.
Here's
Yeah,
a big one. Not cutting you, but here's a big one. We've seen this a lot. Um, pay me $300 so I can pray for you. Pay me $400 so this stuff doesn't happen to you. You've heard that
yeah,
before, right?
all
I've
of
heard that
that,
before plenty of
all
times.
of that, all of that, man,
And
it's
and, and
disturbing.
can I say something,
It's
man? And I want my
disturbing.
parents and the parents. I need you to listen to this. I, I've I've had conversations with with people my age that their parents eat this stuff up. If you paid me $400, if you sow a seed of $900, this is gonna happen. That's gonna happen. Do this. Rub honey on your face. Roll yourself in oil. Do this. Do that. All that type of stuff. And the children are looking at their parents like a bunch of fools because they see that, listen, you call yourself a Christian, instead of depending on God and having a relationship with Him and speaking to Him because you have as much access to Him as your pastor. You're
Yes,
depending
sir.
on pastor so and so, apostle so and so, archbishop so and so to speak on your behalf, when the person that speaks on your behalf is Jesus Christ,
Yeah,
right?
the pastors are comparing themselves to other pastors.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. They're comparing the other pastor's success and how is he doing it. If he's manipulating people, of course, if you're comparing yourself to this guy, God disappears, and then you start to manipulate your audience. And just a correction there. I know Tyler Davis was watching and she made a comment earlier.
Hmm.
Tyler's one of the girls who I really do admire. From the time she was very young,
Hmm.
she was always around Second Chance and around Brooks and all of that. And she was a part of the 100 Voice Choir as well. And the church that we were talking about that she mentioned where we rehearse, that's one of the best churches in Staten Island. They open their doors to the choir, and wonderful church. We can work with them any day. So we're not saying that every church is bad.
Hmm.
We're just saying what happens within that environment, especially those specific ones that I experienced as a music minister, serving these churches and then getting the backlash as well. Yeah, but just to correct that, the particular church that I went to, and this lady could not touch the flyer. It was a different church other than the church that the 100 Voice Choir rehearsed at.
Right.
And we will revitalize these things. We're going to revitalize Second Chance in New York, the 100 Voice Choir. My thing is sustainability. God is sustainability. He renews every day. So if we're going to start something as powerful as the 100 Voice Choir, it has to be sustainable. We have to have a stable place so we don't experience folks closing the doors on us again.
Right.
Let's hope we can gather enough resources that we can have our own building where
Right.
nobody's able to come in there and close those doors at you anymore. And then young folks can come in and just enjoy. After Second Chance stopped operating at the beginning of the pandemic till now, most of the young folks that were in very active in the group are doing something completely different now. And we need to get back to them to bring them back into gospel music. They were so enthusiastic about ministering and doing major things, and it was cool to them. It was cool. And then you're at that point in time, you're able to talk to them, and actually speak Christ to them, and they will get it,
Hmm.
because they see themselves in you. But if you're this standoffish person who's trying to approach these kids, on the basketball court, like one of our youth summits, you go in a suit, you're gonna intimidate them. Be like them. That's what Christ will do. I'm in no way righteous, no way righteous. I just know that your personal relationship with Christ is between you and Christ, and He
Yeah.
determines your level of righteousness, and nobody else should do that. These churches need to stop doing that, um, and stuff like that. And
You don't need to spend
judgmental,
seven. You don't need
yeah.
to spend $600 for God to answer your prayer.
No, I'm not going to pay you a penny to pray for me because I can
Yeah.
pray for myself. The 18-year-old guy needs to know that who's trying to find himself. That listen, your fervent prayer doesn't have to be 2 hours long. Even your supplication while you're walking, and it's like my son Manning when he was on the Old Beach football team. He's playing gospel music throughout. all right, and he's not playing the hyped, rock music that everybody else would listen to. It's not like he was different, but that's where he found his solace, and he did very well on the football team as a captain and two-way starter, and academically, So I didn't present God to him in a way where this dad of his is super spiritual and you have to do
We
that.
can
You
send you
can't
to
stay
hell.
here at this particular time. You can't do that. You can't do the other. It's hard to talk to young folks
Hmm.
if you have to segment yourself and just make yourself look so unreachable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Dr. Truth, you're still on? Oh, yeah. So what do you have to say, Dr. Truth?
No, I agree with that. That that is a shame when sometimes churches present themselves that way, because then that does turn off new believers who are not aware of that they can seek Christ and talk to Christ for themselves. Of course, you want the blessing of a pastor, or an evangelist or something like that, but it, in what ways? So I've been thinking about resources that I can, share with your audience and maybe post somewhere, underneath the
In
video.
the comments, yeah,
So
I was going to suggest that.
exactly. So they can know like what are kind of like not the rules of the church, but what should you pay for? What is a tithe versus what should you pay for?
Hmm.
Because you shouldn't pray for it. But we know that happened in the Catholic Church a lot of times, and it still happens now, where you can pay for your salvation. You cannot pay for your salvation.
Mm.
But that's going down a whole other rabbit hole, so I'm going to stop.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a whole different. That's a whole can of worms. The Catholic Church is a whole different can of worms that we can spend a whole day discussing.
We could spend about 10 years in this show discussing what the Catholic Church does. I'm just being real. Yeah. So Emmanuel, I want to have your closing statements. Dr. Truth, I want to have your closing statements, and I'm gonna close out too because I'm the host. So Emmanuel, let's you know what, Dr. Truth, since you already started, let's start with you, then we'll go with him, then I'll close it out.
Okay. So my closing statements is to know God for yourself and have that personal relationship with God. And if you don't know, then maybe, and you feel like something is not right in your spirit with your intuition, then you can ask someone in the church that, maybe something didn't feel right that someone told you, or, they're asking you to pay for a prayer. Then maybe you could just run that past somebody like an elder or somebody in the church, just to ask, just to double check to make sure that that's correct, because it might not. If it doesn't feel right to you, and I would say just double check it.
Right. Thank you, Doctor.
Yeah,
E-Man?
I'm going to piggyback on Dr. Chup right there. I'm going to piggyback on what you're saying, just buttress it. Like, we have five senses, right? And the animals have five senses as well.
Right.
Why are we way advanced, above them? It's our intuition. And what is our intuition? Our prayer is a telephone call to God, right? Now, God's telephone call to us is our intuition. So that's what gave us an intellect to do different things. That's what gave us an intellect to look at a tree and we can build a chair out of that tree, because that's God telephoning to us. But my takeaway really is, let's exercise love, guys. It's missing in the church. Love is missing in the church. I haven't seen a church where you go into and you just have love all over the place. So the devil has taken his seat in the church, in pastors, in ministers, in ushers. You get into those churches and their faces are so frowned.
Don't leave the
The
deacons
pastor
out.
get up there. I'm sorry.
Don't leave the deacons out.
Oh, the deacons are the gatekeepers. They are the gangsters in the church, where the flickering light while concerts are going on. Let's demonstrate love. It's easy. If you just demonstrate love on a daily basis, everything's going to change, because if you change, everything changes.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Amen. So let me come in with my statement. All right. So you all have watched today's show, and you've heard the story, or I wouldn't say story, but the testimony of somebody that has gone through so much tremendous church hurt, but still continues to serve and worship God to this day, and still has a personal relationship with him. And it's not just him too, even me. I've gone through my experiences too, crazy experiences. Man, if I start to tell my own story too, it's gonna be, you know, a whole lot of, you know, stuff. But I thank God for the blood of Jesus Christ. I thank God that I got to find out that is not it's not being religious that makes me a Christian. It's having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. And that's why I'm comfortable being myself. Because I am who God created me to be. And I don't have to be somebody. Listen, you don't have to be somebody else. You don't have to be somebody else. All you got to do is be yourself and love God. Be who God created you to be. Listen, the sky is the limit. The sky's, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Listen, don't let no man tell you that you are not good enough. Because Christ died not just for your sin, but for their sins, because their righteousness is like a filthy rag. Same with us. So the most important thing is to have that personal relationship. And I want to encourage, do go to church. Don't stay away from church. All right? Do go to church. And when you go to church, try your best. And I know God will lead you and direct you to. Listen, there's no church that's perfect. There's no church that's perfect. But God can lead you to a church where they're striving for perfection. And when I mean striving for perfection, I'm not talking about being overly religious, wearing white on first Sunday, wearing gloves every day, every week, or being super, you know, all over the place. I'm not talking about that. When I mean striving for perfection, striving to love each other like the way Christ loves the church. So you may come across preachers that may be on Facebook, you know, dissing people, insulting people in the name of God, and you think that's what Christianity is all about. It's not. They're religious. Listen, Christ dealt with the Pharisees. You're going to deal with the 2021 Pharisees. It's a given. But thank God for the blood of Jesus Christ. Thank God that he didn't look at religion to save you. All he did was give his life. Give his life just so you could be with him. So I want you to know, to those that are watching, yes, you may be hurt. You may be turned out by church. You may have had bad experiences with people that have been so contrary to the teachings of Jesus Christ, and their output have been so aggressive and disrespectful and disturbing. But let me tell you something. At the end of the day, who the Son sets free is free indeed. So you are free. Now, if they choose to live in religious bondage, that's on them. But I want you to serve the true King, which is Jesus Christ, who formed the church. Not the Catholic Church, not the Episcopal Church. He formed the church that all of us are a part of, because we are one in Jesus Christ. So I want you to keep holding on. Hold on. Late Reverend Oliver Gibson wrote this song. Hold on to God Unchanging Hands. That song always it's been registering in my mind. Hold on to God's unchanging hands. Hold on. Don't let people dictate your future. Because God has already promised that in Romans 8:28, that for we know that all things work together for the good of them that love the Lord according to their purpose. So all you got to do is love God, and the greatest commandment that Jesus Christ gave us, love people, love one another. When we communicate love, we're going to be making a difference in the culture. Listen, the wheat and the tares are going to grow together into the day of harvest. It's facts. You're going to come across these type of people, but don't let that sidetrack you from serving Jesus Christ. Have I dealt with a lot of baggage? Have I dealt with a lot of drama? Yes, but at the end of the day, I'm going to still go to church on Sunday and worship. I'm going to still be connected to Jesus Christ because I know what he's done for me and what he's done in my life, and that he accepts me for who I am. So let's close out in prayer. Father God, we thank you for this wonderful show. We thank you for the wonderful guests that came on. We thank you for the life of Emmanuel Wagar Sr. We thank you for the life of Dr. Ngozi Truth. We thank you for Tracy and Stacy, who allowed for me to even do this. Lord, I thank you for for Bishop Kuyeta, who played a tremendous role in Iman's life. I thank you, Father God, for even putting me in the life of people like putting me in a place where I could have access to people like Imal Wega or Bishop Kuyeta or Dr. Nagonzi Truth or Tracy or Stacy. I thank God that, Lord, that you just continue to show out. I thank you, Father God. I thank you for Hamjad, Father God, who is allowing us to evangelize, to carry out the Great Commission to those out there. Lord, I ask that you bless him. Bless him each and every day. Enlarge his territory more and more and more and more. Because what he's doing is what a lot of us should strive to do, which is carry out the Great Commission of Jesus Christ. So, Lord, I ask that you cover us, those that are hurting from church, those that have had bad experiences with people that have tried to destroy them or try to hurt them. Father God, comfort their hearts and let them know that at the end of the day, they didn't die for them. You did. So we thank you, Father God. We praise your name now and forevermore. We love you, Father God, and that's why we're doing this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Good night, everybody. So hopefully we'll be back next week, but that'll be confirmed during the advertisement. But thank you for watching. Thank you for all the comments, for all the output of support. Those that watch, those that are continuously supporting this ministry, supporting what we're doing, we thank you. Thank those that are tuning in every week. We thank you. We love you. And let God be with you. May he carry you through the week like he always has. I love you. I love you.